Why does a bank built on Queen Street have a Shawlands postcode? And what does Glasgow Bridge have in common with London Bridge? Find out now on this episode of Astonishing Glasgow. In this episode, I'm going to tell you about bits of Glasgow that found new homes in other bits of Glasgow, and I'm starting on the south side. This is Langside Hall, which is kind of in Shawlands and not Langside. I mean, it's not a million miles away, but it's not in Langside. Anyway, if this building looks out of place, surrounded by tenements and right on the edge of Queen's Park, that's because it didn't start its life here. Built in 1847 as the National Bank of Scotland building, its Venetian palazzo style made it one of the most imposing buildings in the city centre. Yep, the city centre. Believe it or not, the first home of this building was right here at 57 Queen Street. It's now the Guildhall. As a wee aside, this is where I took my first aid course with the Royal Mail. At the end of the week, we had to do an accident scenario when one of the other guys on the course rushed in and told the instructor he needed an ambulance for an unresponsive, breathing woman in her 50s. At which point the volunteer on the floor sat bolt uprighted and shouted, "50s? I'm 32. Instant recovery. Anyway, it was 1902 when the bank was dismantled from here and moved block by block to Shawlands. In 1891, Mount Florida, Langside and Shawlands were annexed by the City of Glasgow, and the city had to provide public halls for the area. Rather than building a hall from scratch, they took the opportunity to acquire the bank building and move it brick by brick. This was a shrewd move, as what they got was an incredibly high quality building, designed by architect John Gibson and with sculpture work by John Thomas, who also worked on the Houses of Parliament. The royal coat of arms at the top feature a lion and a unicorn, along with two women either side to symbolise peace and plenty. At the first floor is a city coat of arms, and the heads carved into the ground floor windows symbolise the main rivers of Britain, being the Clyde, the Thames, the Tweed, the Severn and the Humber. In the last few years, a lot of work has been done to the area in front of the hall to make it a nice public space. But at one point, there was an ornate cast iron drinking fountain right here. This very drinking fountain, manufactured by Saracen Foundry, now lives outside what was Templeton's carpet factory on Glasgow Green. So there are two bits of relocated Glasgow already, and there's still more to come. Keep watching to find out what they are, but if you're enjoying the video, please hit that like and subscribe button if you didn't already. It's a small thing, but it really helps my channel grow. And just look at the amount of detail on this fountain. They really don't make them like they used to. On to the next bit of Glasgow on the move, and this one didn't move far at all. The main street outside Langside Hall is Pollokshaws Road. This is also classified as the A77, and if you follow it north for just under 2 miles, you eventually get to the Clyde and Glasgow Bridge, sometimes called Jamaica Street, and at one time known as the Brumelaw Bridge. Confusingly, this is the third of 2 bridges on this site. Let me explain. The original bridge was completed in 1722, designed by William Milne and built by John Smeaton. Not the John Smeaton that battered the Glasgow airport bombers.
This is Glasgow, so we'll say it about you.
This John Smeaton was the self-proclaimed father of civil engineering and was born in 1724. The bridge was much honoured by Thomas Telford, the first president of the Institute of Civil Engineers, who liked it so much he knocked it down and replaced it with his own bridge in 1833. Thomas Telford's bridge stood for just over 60 years, but the need for a wider bridge to accommodate trams, along with work to widen and deepen the River Clyde, meant the bridge was no longer fit for purpose and a solution was needed. When London had this problem, in 1967, they famously sold the old bridge to American Robert McCulloch. He moved it all the way to Lake Havasu in Arizona, block by block, where I can confirm it still stands today. And Glasgow was to do something similar, though it didn't move quite as far. Glasgow Bridge was dismantled and a newer, wider and longer bridge was built on steel caissons. But the original stonework from the Telford Bridge was used to clad the new bridge, and so it retains its original appearance. I'm sure Thomas Telford would be happy with the new bridge, but he died on September the 2nd, 1834 and was buried in Westminster Abbey in London, not knowing that his bridge would be changed. Onwards and upwards, and the next stop on the trail is the High Street. It's fairly normal for the High Street to be the oldest and busiest part of a city. In Glasgow, the High Street is indeed the oldest part of the city, with the cathedral at the top of the hill on the site of the original settlement. But by the time you come down the hill, beyond Duke Street, it's clear that it's no longer the centre of the city. There are no big shops or markets, and no historic buildings dating back to the earliest days of Glasgow, but it wasn't always this way. Right around here was once the home to Glasgow University. Founded in 1451, Glasgow University is Scotland's second oldest university after St Andrews. Teaching began in the chapter house of Glasgow Cathedral, but in 1563 it was granted 13 acres of land on the High Street by Mary Queen of Scots. By the late 17th century, the university buildings surrounded two courtyards, a chapel and a clock tower. By 1870, however, the Industrial Revolution was at its height, and the land occupied by the university was sold to the railways to form the High Street Station, the goods yard and the parcel depot. All the buildings dating back to 1650 were to be demolished, and the uni would move to its new location in Gilmore Hill. There would be nothing left of the 1650 university building if it wasn't for the philanthropy of Sir William Pearse. You may remember this name from episode 44 when we wandered around Govan. William Pearse was born in Chatham in Kent in 1833. He trained as a shipwright and a naval architect before moving to Glasgow in 1863. He took on several jobs, working his way up from surveyor to the Lloyd's Registry, to General Manager of Napier and Sons, where he was designing transatlantic ocean liners. In 1869, he became a partner in John Elder & Co. John Elder & Co. were Govan shipbuilders, and when the other partners retired, William Pearse was the sole owner by 1878. He had political aspirations, so to spend more time in London, serving as an MP for Govan, he converted the business into a limited company and named it the Fairfield Shipbuilding and Engineering Company after the farm which occupied the land before the shipyard. Fairfields was the biggest shipyard on the Clyde and still exists today as part of BAE Systems. They're currently building the new HMS Glasgow as I make this video in 2023. If you want to know more about Fairfields, I can highly recommend a visit to the Fairfield Heritage Centre inside the shipyard's freshly restored old offices. This is me in the very committee room where Pearse himself would chair meetings of the board or woo potential clients. It's definitely worth a visit, and I'll post details of their website below. But what has William Pearse got to do with the old university buildings? Sir William Pearse stepped in and funded the rescue of parts of the old university building. He then paid for them to be incorporated into a lodge on the site of the new university at Gilmore Hill, and that lodge survives to this very day. From University Avenue, you can see the old main gateway, with the coat of arms of Charles II above, dating from 1660. As you look at the lodge, you will see other surviving parts of the old university, such as the distinctive protruding windowsills, the carved scrollwork, the chimneys, and all the decorative stone. So there you go, some of Glasgow's history that still survives in plain sight, but just not necessarily where it once started. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please hit that like and subscribe button to show your support for my channel. If you'd like to make a small donation to help me make more episodes, hit that super thanks button and leave whatever you can, it is all appreciated. These are the names of some of the channel supporters from the last episode. You can get in touch via the comments section, or you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram. The links are in the video description. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time in Astonishing Glasgow. Right, Norseman of the Apocalypso and Russell Jones said they would buy me a Tunnock's tea cake, so I'll see you later.